on this healing journey and with the use of mushrooms and other psychedelics, I have actually gotten a lot softer and more vulnerable, and I'm much more patient and I'm much more present. And I want to continue to work on myself to show up better for my family.
All right. Well, welcome back to Confidently Uncomfortable. We are wrapping up the Hot Girl Healing series. Y'all just went through 8 weeks of different forms of healing. We have gone really, really deep with my pregnancy journey, with my decision to work with a doula. We've talked about all of these different forms of healing, biohacking, all of the above. So make sure you guys go listen to that. But I have saved the best for last. I have 2 amazing, amazing people who are joining us today. This week's focus is actually a solo trip. So taking yourself on a solo trip. So I decided to get a little bit outside the box with this of maybe what you were thinking when we did solo trip. And I have Leah and Christine, the host of See You on the Other Side podcast, and they are all about breaking the stigma of psychedelics and how it can really help with your healing journey. So I'm so pumped to have you guys here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Welcome to Confidently Uncomfortable.
Yay!
Hi.
We are so excited to be here.
Super excited.
I'm very, very excited. Y'all's podcast has already just been a huge storm of just breaking through stereotypes and expectations. And you guys are doing that with drugs, but I also see it as you doing it with just the being a mom. Y'all are both millennial moms. I resonate with that. I'm a mom to be with my first kid. And so seeing you guys do that and be so authentic with who you are, I just want to get to know both of you a little bit more. So I'd love to hear more about y'all's background and then also just y'all's story, what brought you both together, because you have a very, very beautiful platform now, and I want to kind of know what got you there. So whoever wants to start.
I always have to start this because it started with me.
Perfect.
Back in 2020, when like everybody was like, what the fuck is happening in the world during quarantine, I was really, really struggling. I was home with my 3 kids. My business was closed and my husband was an alcoholic. I was at the end of my rope. Like, something's got to give. I had been on antidepressants on and off for a couple of years. They weren't working. Didn't work for me. And I was just like, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be something else. I can't keep living this life and not being happy and being depressed and being anxious. Like, it was consuming me. So a friend did some psychedelic mushroom heroic journeys. She guided people on these journeys. And I was like, sign me up. I don't even care at this point. I did the research beforehand, but I jumped all in. And I think so many people hear that and they're like, you just did it? I'm like, what did I have to lose? At this point, I was at the end of my rope. This was like a lifeline for me because I was like, okay, worst that could happen, I'd trip really hard, see some pretty colors, maybe see sound and all that weird stuff that you hear about. And I might be high for 6 hours, but I did enough research to know that this was safer than alcohol. This was safer than nicotine. This was safer than SSRIs and benzos. And it's safer than almost any over the like drug out there. So I was like, okay, I'll risk it. So yeah, did this very large heroic journey. I set an intention before I went in and came out of it 6 hours later and was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, this just blew my world open. I learned a lot about myself in that trip. I learned how to let go of a lot of things that I was really trying hard to hold on to. And that was actually my intention, was to let go. But coming out of it, the 6 months later, 6 months into this journey, I'm starting to speak up more. I'm starting to stand up for myself. I'm starting to notice these patterns in my life that I can change. I'm noticing patterns about my husband that he needs to change. So it was just a very, very big life-changing journey for me when I came out of it and began to integrate it. And I couldn't stop talking about it to people. It weirded people out. People were like, this girl is doing drugs and she's talking about it. There's been this like wave of this psychedelic movement happening in the last few years, but this was like at the beginning of it. So it was before How to Change Your Mind came out on Netflix. It was right when Fantastic Fungi came out. So people weren't talking about this, but I couldn't shut up. started talking about it openly on my Instagram page. Christine and I were friends before that, but hadn't seen each other because of shutdown, and her business was shut down. She won a giveaway from me like a year after my journey.
Yeah.
And we met up for lunch so I could like give her this bracelet. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in like a year. Like, how's life? And then I'll let her take over from there, because that is like a year later, full circle. This is what
all of this
next.
change has happened. And then you are getting lunch with Christine. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Leah, it was almost 2 years because I did my heroic journey in 2022. So I'm like super new in the psychedelic space.
You're right. You're right. Oh God.
Yeah. I know. No wild. But yes, also a mom, also had a business. In December of 2021, I closed my business down. I was actually getting, probably for a good year and a half, I was getting really sick. I was getting all these physical symptoms. I was getting chronic UTIs and rashes all over my body. And I was going to doctors all over, and they didn't know what was wrong. And they would just give me an antibiotic and treat it, and nothing ever got better. So I made the tough decision to close my business because I wanted to focus on my health. And so my business closed in December, and I think it was January, I won this giveaway with Leah, and we hadn't seen each other forever, but her and I met up, and I was like, bitch, you go. And
Yeah.
but it wasn't just her exterior. It was like she had like this inner glow and this peace, and she looked really happy. And I'm like, sis, what are you doing? And she said, I did her journey of mushrooms. And I am somebody, in this healing journey, we have both learned that in our human design, we are both 3 5s.
Mm-hmm.
You are too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So when somebody gives me a piece of information, and especially when it's in the realm of like, this can help heal you. Because I grew up with a lot of child trauma. I suffered with anxiety. I took anxiety meds. They didn't work. They didn't help me. And I was always very hypervigilant and in fight or flight. And so if somebody's going to give me a lifeline, I'm going to take it. And so she was telling me all about mushrooms, and I did research too, but I'm somebody who I'm like, fuck it.
YOLO.
I mean, I've struggled a lot of my life with anxiety and depression. I'm like, what do I have to lose? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then I'll try something else. So long story short, but I ended up doing a heroic journey. When I went home back to my fiance, he was like, you're what? You're going to do mushrooms to help your mental health? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. But I had a good mentor with Leah, and I did a heroic journey with a guide. And my intention was to also let go. Leah is much more of a people pleaser than I am. I had a lot of anger and just resentment to let go. It was hands down the most profound experience of my life, and the most profound introspective experience of my life. And just like Leah, I came out of it and I was just like, why isn't anybody talking about this? And her and I kept talking, and we're like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's start a podcast and talk about it and share our truth, because a lot of the people around us, they're looking at us like we're crazy, but there are people who will hear us and who will want that lifeline, just how I wanted it, just how Leah wanted it. And we just got to find those people and find that community.
That matters so much more. Yeah, that matters so much more than the ones that are going to call you crazy, because you're always going to seem crazy to someone. You're always going to seem wrong, too much, not enough to somebody. So it's like you two have stepped into your truth and what feels so aligned with you. And it's so evident just when you speak on it, like you're literally shining as you speak. And that's why you're attracting those people that are ready to hear it. And like, instead of thinking like, oh, I cannot speak until everyone is ready and understands where I'm coming from, that's never going to be the case. Y'all are just like, no, we're going to speak. And when y'all are ready, let's do this. Like, let's see you on the other side. Hence your
but
podcast.
You know, right. The interesting thing about the people who have judged us, labeled us as druggies, thought we were weird, whatever, they don't know anything about what we're talking about. So it's coming from a place of like lack of curiosity, because if they actually were open to just hear what we had to say, instead of just stereotype us or label us, they would probably leave the conversation having maybe a very different opinion, but they're just not even open to having that conversation. So Those aren't
Yeah.
our people.
We make
Absolutely.
a lot of people uncomfortable.
I love
what
it though. I
we're all
love
about
it.
here. That's the whole point, is for people to get uncomfortable, because that's where change happens. That's where like big things occur, is in the uncomfortable space. And like, you all recognizing that, I think, is so powerful. And you guys both kind of hit on, being judged. And that's something where, I'm pregnant. I'm starting to already feel judgment about, I'm wearing the crop top. I'm doing the thing. Y'all, I'm Rihanna belly out right now when it comes to my pregnancy.
Get it,
And,
sis.
and I told myself that that's just, I was going to not change. Like, of course we're going to change, but I wanted it to feel like an expansion of myself versus feeling like I had to close off a part of me because I'm a quote unquote mom now. And so I'm curious with that, when you spoke on the judgment, had anyone ever made any kind of remarks to you as far as like, oh, well, what do your kids think? What are you doing as a mom? What are those thoughts? Have those discussions come up? I'm just curious, like, y'all's thoughts on that and breaking that stereotype.
I have actually lost friends just openly speaking out about my healing journey and the fact that I use psychedelic to heal, which I find just absolutely insane. That me putting out there that I did this and I feel more at peace and I feel happier and I'm a better mom and it makes me a better partner, and that there would be any judgment on that. But yeah, there have absolutely been friends and acquaintances who have made condescending remarks or comments about what I'm doing and the fact that I'm doing as a mother. And again, to that, I just say there is a lot of lack of knowledge and education around this subject. And it just motivated me even more to share this on a public platform and kind of go against those stereotypes and those labels.
Absolutely. It's so important.
For me to speak on this, I think I kind of want to talk about how it's made me a better mom. And I think Christine and I are both in this place of being unapologetically authentic. And that makes a lot of people really uncomfortable too. But like, I will straight up say, like, this has made me a better mom. I'm not reaching for a glass of wine and a Xanax every night. Like, I'm not looking for the girls' trips to escape my life. I'm looking to enhance my life. Like, I'm never trying to get away from my stuff anymore. Which, by the way, I should probably add after the comment that I made earlier. My husband is sober now, like going on 2.5 years.
Thanks for the update. Congrats.
Thanks for the clarification.
So really, like, my life has really done like a full like 180, all because of mushrooms. And there's also this stereotype that we're just doing it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And I really challenge people because I almost want to be like, well, how often are you reaching for a glass of wine? Because I'm doing this maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
And once you've done like a large journey the way that we do, you're not looking to do that every weekend. It's really uncomfortable to sit with your shit in that capacity because it will show you your shit. And you have to make the choice, the conscious choice when you come out of it to actually work on those things. It almost makes it impossible not to, because now that you've seen them, it's like in your face. It's like beating you over the head basically afterwards. So you do have to be ready to like make a commitment to making these changes. But I want to say that after I had my third kid, I struggled with postpartum depression. And that was like the first time depression ever hit me. And then I feel like I couldn't get it to go away. When I came out of that fog, I realized I was never really a present mom. And that was like a really hard realization for me. Even before I was depressed, I was doing all the time. I owned a business. I was hustling. I was never present. Like, my husband and I had completely separate lives. Like, he would have his guys' night and I didn't drink, so I would stay in, and I was just coasting. I wasn't enjoying being a parent. And that sounds terrible to say. Like, I didn't feel that in the moments. I didn't feel that those first like 15 years of being a parent. I didn't feel it until I came out of that fog. And I was like, holy shit, where have I been? I've been missing out on my kids, and my kids have been missing out on me. I struggled a lot with feeling guilty. There was a lot of guilt there for not doing this sooner. And I see it very different now. And this is why I'm saying this. My oldest is about to be 16 and my youngest is 6. I love like being in the car with my kids because I'm having conversations with them. I'm very intentional. I'm very present with them. I had a moment today where like I snapped at my 6-year-old and I microdosed this morning because we're doing a microdosing protocol group right now.
Love it.
Microdosed this morning, and literally like before she even got out of the car, I was like, I'm really sorry that I said that to you. I'm sorry. I snapped at you. I've just been in a funk today and I shouldn't have said that. And that was never me before. Like it's really hard for people to apologize when they know they fucked up, right?
Especially parents.
Especially parents.
Yes.
Yeah, especially parents. So I have been thinking about this a lot lately because, I could sit here and be like, I should have done this sooner. And I wish that my 16-year-old had this mom when he was 6. I can sit and do that. But the way that I see it now, and this is huge, the way that I see this now is my kids have witnessed a change. My kids have watched their father get sober. My kids have watched me change. And that's a gift that I think most adults wish they could see in their parents. Like they've witnessed something that they'll that's a gift in itself. Like
Absolutely.
They weren't born into this mother, but I am now. They've watched someone evolve. And I get like emotional even thinking about it because I'm like, no, that's pretty powerful that
Very
they've
powerful.
witnessed it. So
It's
as far
so
as like
big.
the parenting thing goes, like it's weird because I really don't let that judgment affect me because I know that what I'm doing is better for me and it's better for my family and it's better for my kids. And I'm happy with that. So that's enough for me.
Absolutely. You came back to 2 things. It's so wild that you said it, like the intention behind what you're doing and then being present. And so like y'all, with anything, like intention really matters and the intention behind anything. Cause I'm not like against drinking alcohol. Do I feel better when I'm not drinking it? Yes. Do I tell people to take a break from it to see how you feel? Yes. But like, it's really the intention behind what you're doing. And that's what you guys are sharing with doing mushrooms. Y'all both went in with an intention. You went in with guidance. You went in wanting to heal and get to the root of the problem and not use it as a form of numbing, which is what so many people do when it comes to any sort of, not just psychedelics, but any sort of drug, alcohol, pills, whatever. Like a lot of times people are doing it to numb and just continue on autopilot. Maybe they don't even realize it. And so the fact that you guys have woken up to this and realized how powerful it truly can be, but still staying with the intention behind it is huge. I'm just so glad that you're speaking on this. As far as being a mom and everything you just shared, like as parents, it gets me teared up thinking about because you're so true. Like these kids would not have seen this if you had not taken the leap that you talked about earlier, where you just went all in with it. You could have let the stigmas and things that you've heard about it hold you back from doing this, but you didn't. You went in anyways. And the other thing I think a lot of people struggle with when they do get to the other side is, man, I wish I'd done this sooner. And then they lay in that guilt for years.
Yeah.
And I think staying in that guilt only further pulls you from the present. And the point is to have intention and be present. We can't let that hold us back. And do you feel like that was something you had to break up with? And if so, like what helped you break up with that? Was it seeing your kids see your change, or was there something specific that helped you? Because someone sitting here listening right now is still stuck in that guilt. And I want you to help them break that a little bit.
So this actually has come up before, and I'll say it like this. I always felt pulled between my work, my clients, and I work in an industry where we work Saturdays and we work late. It's the beauty industry and we don't work normal 9 to 5. So I would work late and I would miss practices and I would miss games and I would miss school functions. But I was like, but I have to because I'm working. Well, I retired this year, retired in April. And the reason is because my husband started law school. So I'm like, well, shit, like I have to retire. But it was like my excuse to finally get out of this job that I feel like has been sucking the life out of me for years. And this is the reason I'm touching on this is because I needed an excuse. I needed an excuse to do what I wanted to do that didn't make me feel guilty. I needed it to be on someone else. I couldn't just say, I just don't want to work this job anymore. I just want to quit. I just don't want to do it. Now I could say, well, I have to because my husband's starting law school and, somebody's got to like run these kids around. And, but I'm saying that because I have a friend who's a hairdresser and is in the same situation and is like hoping her husband gets this job so she can cut her hours back. And I'm like, why don't you just cut your hours back? Well, I don't want to let these people down. I don't want to let anybody down. But if he gets this job, then I can cut my hours back and then I can be home with my kids more. It's like we're looking for these excuses and someone else to blame these things on. But like, I don't understand why you're not enough, why what you want isn't enough to do that.
Well, I did the same thing too.
Did you? I did the same thing too. When did you do it?
Well, because I owned a gym, right? And it took me getting so physically sick, but stuff was happening with me internally before, and I didn't do anything. And then that chronic stress led to me having physical symptoms. And then I was like, okay, now I can close. And I'm like, I had to burn myself out that much to step away from something that wasn't serving me. And it was actually making me sick, but I wanted to appease other people, like make it make sense. And that is another reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because for me, doing my heroic journey, that was like the last resort. And I did all of these other things and I struggled my entire life. And I want to talk to people who are opening to hearing us, and maybe it won't be their last resort. They'll do something when they hear us talk. I don't want people to be at rock bottom and then do this. And that's why we want to have this public platform and talk about what we want to talk about.
Coming back to what you were saying about being unable to make that decision for yourself, I think there's two things going on here that you both hit on. So with Leah, you were hitting on this people-pleasing side of things. I relate to that. I talk about people-pleasing a lot. I'm a recovering people pleaser over here. And it's like, we're going into it having to justify it. And it's like our self-worth is so wrapped up in our titles and our productivity and all those things that we have to justify it in some way in order to get out of it and feel like it's okay. It can't just be about you because you're not enough. Your needs are not enough. It needs to be either for someone else's needs or whatever. And like, that'll allow you to step over it guilt-free. So that definitely has come up for me. But then the other side of things, kind of what Christine, you were hitting on, is the autopilot state of mind, going through life in autopilot. And I really feel like when you are in that space, you're so out of touch with our bodies that our bodies are screaming for help. They're like, please stop. And they're trying every little thing. Like you get a sniffle, you get a cold, whenever it's trying to get you to slow down. But then it really has to knock you on your ass in order for you to realize like, wow, I need to really step into what's best for me. I need to step away from whatever this is because it's not serving me anymore. And so it's almost like you guys just said that really well. Like, we don't want you to get to that point of complete burnout to where you feel like there's nothing else out there, but that you just recognize that it is an option and possibly the best option out of all the ones that you're about to take, right?
I think that they could genuinely save the world, but
yeah, great. I love it. I'm here for it.
Okay. I just remembered something about what we were talking about that I wanted to touch on. The intentionality of things. We speak on that a lot because I think that that's huge. Intentions behind everything, like whether you're using it to escape, because how many times have you heard people have a bad trip? They talk about the bad trips. That's all you hear about. I have had friends who've done them dozens of times and had a bad trip every time, and they keep doing it. And there's never an intention behind it other than to get fucked up or to party. And so I think intention with this is very, 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 very different. You can intentionally use them to have a good time. But even then, be aware of your dose and your setting and the intention behind it and know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the intention behind it is very big.
Yeah, really like going into it with an intention instead of trying to just like cover up what's going on and like avoid and numb. Instead, it's like, I want to use this to get deeper within myself. I think that that's really huge. I'm not sure, like as far as mushrooms, going below the subconscious, I think is really huge. And I had not ever been able to do that until I started doing hypnotherapy. And like that allowed me to take away all of the barriers that I put up just like day-to-day life humaning going throughout life. And being able to step into that, I think, is so huge. And so, like you said, the intention is everything behind it. I think it makes such a big difference. And I'm glad that you guys didn't let judgment hold you back and you guys were able to just step into the unknown. Speaking of stepping into the unknown, I think that that's something people struggle with. They don't know what's on the other side. They don't know, like, okay, so maybe I do want to try this. Maybe this is something that, I want to do, but I don't know anything about it. Like, what would your advice be to them?
We have a resource page on our website.
We'll link it in there. We'll link it in the show notes.
That is literally like the fun way to do your research. We have documentaries, we have movies, we have websites, we have I don't know if we have podcasts, but we have books on there. I mean,
you have your podcast.
Our podcast. We don't need to link our podcast. There's a lot of really good information out there now. You don't have to dig for it anymore. You can literally just Google like mushrooms for mental health, mushrooms for addiction, mushrooms for anxiety, mushrooms for depression. It like does so much that it's hard to kind of ignore these days, but we do highly, highly suggest you do your research and you know what you're doing before you do it, and make sure you're setting an intention and make sure that you are ready to put in the work afterwards.
Speaking of like, setting in and doing the work, I also think the big component you hit on earlier was like being open and lowering judgment. Like that's something that I think could save the world. In addition, is like, if we can just be more open to things, even if it's things that we don't know, recognize like, hey, I don't know this yet. I don't know anything about it. This is my current perspective, but that doesn't mean it's the truth. It's just my truth in this moment. And that's allowed to change. And you also don't have to feel bad for it. Because I remember having that stigma with even moms of like, smoking weed, which is, like all of those things. It was just like you have this thought of like what someone should and shouldn't be. And the more you are around people that break that stereotype, I think the better it is. But you need to go into it without judgment, because that allows you to see people for who they really are, because you're not going in and throwing shit on them. You're coming from it, because I'm sure most of the people that were stepping away from friendships with you guys were projecting shit onto you. They didn't actually want to hear what you had to say. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right on the nose.
Right. You got it. but with our platform, we don't just talk about psychedelics, because I always say psychedelics, especially mushrooms, they're not good. They're not bad. They're powerful. So it's really dependent on what you want to do with it. But at the end of the day, you as a person, you are the medicine. So whatever avenue you want to go down, we are all for it. And we always say, don't just blindly go by what we say, by what somebody else says, because that's how you can get yourself in a bad situation.
Yep.
Do your own research so you can be able to advocate for yourself. We are just providing information in all types of different modalities, and whatever you want to do, you do. Or if you don't, you don't.
Well, and it's interesting that you said you just did hypnotherapy, or not just did, but the hypnotherapy to get into your subconscious. And I think that that's like a really good broad general statement, is to say that like the quickest way to your healing is to go into your subconscious mind. And that's not easy. You can't just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to go into my subconscious. Like there are so many different ways to get there. So, we talk about breath work. We talk about psychedelics being like a very quick way to get there. But there are other ways to do it. I think you can get there from meditation. It's a little bit harder, probably takes years of practice, but it's doable. And kind of on the judgment thing, like, sometimes we'll get comments on TikTok. We had one like recently that was like, you're doing drugs. You don't need to do drugs to do that. You can do that with breath work, love and light. And I'm like, you can also do it this way. Love and light.
Multiple avenues to your own healing. It's your journey.
Judging your way of doing it, but like you're not even open to hearing that there's another path to take. There are several paths to take, which is what our platform is about, because we want to dabble in all of them so we know what works for us.
But by the way, we all do drugs. Can we just talk about that as well?
The elephant in the room.
Right. Can I just say that? Like, if you've taken Tylenol, you've taken a drug. If you eat sugar, take a drug. You drink coffee, that's a drug. We all do drugs.
Well, and the whole like morality like the good and the bad. What determines that? I was literally having a conversation with my 11-year-old today. I don't tell my kids that I do this stuff, but I also don't hide this. Like my kids know that I'm obsessed with mushrooms. They just don't quite understand why. Like they know that it's a medicine that I use, but they don't understand what it is. But yeah, my 11-year-old is like talking today about I'm never going to do drugs. And I was like, wait, I like took a video of him. I was like, I need you to say this because I'm going to show you this again when you're 16 and
Please
again
do.
when you're 17 and again when you're 18. I was like, I'm not going to be mad at you for doing drugs. I just want you to know what you're doing and why you're doing them. Like literally, I'm like, that is like a huge learning thing for him. He's going to remember that and be like, my mom said it was okay that I do drugs as long as I know what I'm doing and how I'm doing.
Hopefully he doesn't tell his classmates.
I was going to say there's something coming in from that's like, I mean, what is it? Like the hugs, not drugs, and like the whole stigma on that. Like, what was it? They talked about make your brain like Swiss cheese. And I think this was literally just smoking the marijuana, which is just like so dumb. And then like everyone's thoughts about acid and it's just everything. And it's just, it's
everything you thought you knew is wrong.
It's all fed to you and what they want you to think. And so I love that you guys were talking about like do the research for yourself and figure out what's best for you. But again, come with an open mind, come with the idea of like, maybe what I've learned so far isn't everything that I know already. Everything that out there that you currently know is not everything that is to be known. And so I love y'all's approach. I think it's just so powerful and so needed. And I also love that you're right. Like your podcast is not just about psychedelics. It's a piece of it. And I think that's an important factor too, because we don't want to put anything above anything else. It's really about just leveling the playing field of like, quit acting like the drinks that you're drinking on the weekend or what all that like is not also something that can be seen as that. And like we said, I'm not against alcohol. It's just, I think people need to understand their intention behind what are they putting into their bodies? What is the intention behind it? And you guys are teaching that and you're helping people heal, which is the world needs more healing. So thank you guys for being that.
Thanks. You're welcome. I did want to say this too, because I feel like whenever we drink or do anything like that, we're kind of like losing control of ourselves. We're going outside of ourselves. We don't know what's going on. Some people black out. You make poor decisions. These types of drugs, it's really the first thing that I have ever done, ever in my adult drug life that makes me feel more connected to myself. It makes it feel like I know my body now. I know a lot of people like run away or try to numb or try to fix anxiety. And I think, I don't want to speak for you, Christine, but I know that like we kind of feel the same way about it. Instead of like running it or trying to fix it or thinking that you're broken because you are struggling with anxiety, we really focus on trying to be friends with it because we're never going to never have anxiety. There are people that I have to be around that make me have more anxiety. And it's not because I suffer from anxiety. It's because of the people that I'm around that I shouldn't be around. There's always some type of trigger that's bringing it up for me. And I can sit with myself now because I'm more in tune with myself. I'm more in tune with my body and who I am as a person, that I know when something is inauthentic and I know when something's not for me. And if I start to feel anxious, I know it's not for me. So it's much easier to manage now than it was before when I felt like I was suffering from anxiety because everything in my life was causing it.
Well, and that's the other thing too is, and Leah, I'm sure you can relate to this, but I was so disconnected from my body. I didn't know what was triggering or what this was stemming from, where now I am so connected to myself. I can feel when I'm starting to pull away. I can feel when I'm starting to slip. I've been struggling a little bit the last 6 weeks and I know it. But I know it will pass. And I know like I have tools in my tool belt that I can use now, where before I wouldn't know. I was so out of touch with my body. I would have a panic attack and not know where it came from. So the connection with myself has been huge. And Leah, what do you always say about mushrooms? Mushrooms, they feel like home.
Yeah.
Like MDMA feels like love, but mushrooms are home.
Yeah. We've done quite a bit of experimenting. Mushrooms were our gateway drugs.
Like what else is out there? I love it.
Yeah. It was almost like, hold on. if these are this good, if this is the change that I got from this, what else do I think is really bad that might not be bad? So, yeah, I have this TikTok where I talk about the different psychedelics that I've used on my journey. And Christine probably feels the same, and what they feel like. If I could do it in one word, this is what they feel like. And for mushrooms, home. MDMA feels like love. Ayahuasca felt like mother. DMT feels like heaven. And the latest thing that I've done is ketamine, and it felt like hope. And I can see why that's like one of the things that they're doing a lot right now for people who have like treatment resistant depression or are suicidal, because it's like this instant hope that you feel. And you're like, oh, okay, so I can feel this way. It's not all lost, you know? So it's just wild to me because they all have this different energy behind them. And that's why what you said earlier, Christine, like maybe mushrooms aren't for you. Maybe it's not your thing, but these other things, maybe one of them might be. Oh, and acid feels like you're having fun. Like it just feels like you're connecting with your inner child.
A kid again. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. So sometimes I'm like, do you want to have like a acid weekend in the woods and go like be our 7-year-old selves unapologetically?
Right?
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, again, safe use, of course.
Both of y'all hitting on things that like I resonate with so fucking hard. So hard. It's just, I talk about feeling good naked, and because it throws people off. They're like, what? You telling people to feel good naked? And the thing is like, I want you to feel so connected to yourself in the most vulnerable of states. Being like where you're not holding back. There's no filter. You're not afraid to just show up as you are. And so the ability to do that allows you to go through life in a way of like deeper understanding with your body. I love how you said, like, when a trigger comes up, our journey's not over. It's just not just going to go away, but like you understand deeper of that trigger, and you're able to see, you know, like when you said you get hate comments or people saying shit about you, it doesn't affect you in the same way it used to, because you're recognizing like, oh, maybe that would have triggered me previously, but now it's just triggering them, and they're not at a place yet to understand that. So it's not about me. And it just lets it roll off of you. And it's such a beautiful place to be. And it really comes back to feeling peace throughout your life. And you guys are creating that for yourselves, and you're helping other people create that within their lives. And you talked about how it brought peace in parenthood for you. So I want to come back to that, just to kind of like with talking through mothers who are, again, maybe they're like, I can't do that. I'm a mom now. Like,
we hear that a lot.
Yeah, let's break up with that. So you talked about it bringing peace to parenthood. So in what ways did it do that? What was something that you're like, wow, I'm really, I don't know, just any kind of thing that clicked for you when it comes to parenthood and having that experience?
For me, when my son came into my life, especially as he got older, he's 4 now, but I realized that I've had a lot of wounds and I had a lot of triggers. And I think when people talk about parenting, they're always like, oh, like the late nights and changing diapers and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the hard part is reparenting yourself while trying to parent this little child who is in like your mirror and incredibly triggering at moments, and parenting a completely different way than how you were raised. And that has been the hard thing. But on this healing journey and with the use of mushrooms and other psychedelics, I have actually gotten a lot softer and more vulnerable, and I'm much more patient, and I'm much more present. And I want to continue to work on myself to show up better for my family.
I think one of the ways that it's really, really helped me is I think in the beginning of my healing journey, I was very big in like, feel your feelings. Everybody needs to feel your feelings. And I am the soft feminine, but I cry a lot. I cry
Same girl.
so much. Like I am the water and elemental, like no jokes.
You are.
I really
fire.
You're
water.
fire. I'm water. So even during COVID, and my daughter at the time was like 2, I'm like, it's okay that you're crying. I'm going to sit in here and I'm going to cry in the closet with you, and I'm not going to leave your side, and just cry it out, girl. And I'm literally like in the closet with her, and she is like so me. that I'm like, she needs this. She needs this because she's so emotional and this is what I need. It took me until literally, Christine, how long ago was it? Not that long ago. A few months ago where I was like, wait a minute. I'm making it worse. She doesn't need to be witnessed the way that I do because she has a safe environment. She needs to work through her feelings on her own because I was watching the way my husband was with her. And he's not the kind of like in your feelings guy. He's very like stoic and like, okay. Like she's like having a meltdown and he's like, okay. And then ignores her. And I'm like, no, we need to be asking her what's wrong and how can I help? And I was pushing her away. And so we butt heads a lot because I'm just tell me what's wrong. I can't fix it if you don't tell me what's wrong. And then he's just like, well, I just like let her cry and she'll come tell me later. Just leave her crying. Yeah. I literally just a few months ago was like, holy shit, I need that. That's not what she needs. She is able to ground herself much faster alone than having someone sit with her in her feelings. I need someone to sit with me. She doesn't. So that's another way that I feel like this has really helped me because even though she is so much like me and she is so triggering because I look at her and I look at my husband and I'm like, you have two of us. How do you do this? I can't do this. She's also very different than me because we are growing up in a completely different environment. Completely different. I did not have safety in my parents. My life was like chaos as a child. So she's getting this safe place. She's getting these tools to self-soothe. She's able to go up in her room and cry in her closet and come back down and then say what's wrong and work through it herself. It's like powerful to watch because I'm like, oh my God, she's me, but better.
Well, and that's good that you're able to like step outside of yourself and realize that we're all different and we all have different needs and you can recognize that now, but before you couldn't.
Yeah. Before I was triggering to think that like I couldn't fix it for her. It was really hard for me because I'm a fixer. I'm a parent. I'm a mom.
But you know yourself. You recognize that in yourself. And I think a lot of moms, I don't know what it is. This whole like mini me mentality. I mean, I'm sure, listen, I don't have a kid. Like seeing someone that looks like you, acts like you, thinks like you, I'm sure that that definitely brings that on. But you have to remind yourself that they are also their own individual. And like you said, they have a completely different foundation that you all created for them, which is so beautiful. I love how you said, I'm already experiencing this, which is weird, but the parenting, like the kids being a mirror for you and how it's like can bring up so much. And so like small example of this was with pregnancy, you know, it brought up still stuff when it comes to my body image. I'd already worked through that years and years ago. I coach people on it and then it comes back up through pregnancy. The other thing is I literally was bawling the other day out of happiness and sadness for myself when I thought about my husband. He is literally going to be the best dad. And I didn't get that. I didn't get the support of a father. I didn't get to see like two loving parents grow and raise their child. And it like literally it brought me to tears. And I was so happy and then immediately sad for myself at the same time. And it just like brought up so much. I'm like, I haven't had this kid yet. And this shit is coming out. It is wild.
You just wait because I didn't grow up with a dad either. And so there's a huge father wound there. And I'm so grateful that I have a partner who I get to watch just be the best, most loving, affectionate, present, emotionally available father and being so happy that my son and my stepdaughters get that, but also feeling this incredible grief that I didn't have that.
You guys tell me, I feel like you need to feel both.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's room for both of those. I think sometimes people get stuck in the negative one of that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people get very jealous of
resentful.
Yeah.
Towards their kids. Yeah.
I felt that a lot growing up. I felt a lot of resentment because I was getting attention from my dad that he maybe wasn't giving my mom and maybe she didn't have growing up. And I felt that. It took me almost 40 years to realize what that was, but you know. I have a lot more empathy for her now, but
Yes.
yeah, it was wild.
But it was still an experience. And like the fact that you all as moms are continuing to go on this journey and be open to it and healing yourselves and recognizing like it doesn't end. It just keeps going. You're continuing to do that is super inspiring. And I just appreciate you guys being so open and vulnerable and real about who you are as humans, but also as moms, and recognizing like, hey, I'm still learning. And even recently, you guys sharing recent stories, I just love that shit because I think it's not talked about enough, and you're supposed to show up a certain way for your kids and for society and publicly. And I just love that you're breaking those barriers. It's inspiring me to do the same as things start to go into this next chapter for me. So I just want to say thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you.
You're
Both
going
of
to
you
be
so
such
much.
a good mom.
I know. Well, I'm
Make me cry. Oh my gosh. I have too many hormones right now. So let's shift up the energy so that I don't cry I cry almost every episode the past few months. So we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to do our rapid fire questions with they don't know what they are. I'm going to ask you guys, I switched some of them up. Some of them I keep on the same. So audience, you guys listening, some of them you haven't heard before, but you guys get to each go. So first question, what was your favorite trip? You could either be talking about a place or a trip.
We just got back from Cabo.
Okay.
My husband and I have been together 17 years, and we didn't take a solo trip until like 2 years ago. It was the first trip we ever took without kids, and he fucked it up because he was still drinking. Fucked it up. We didn't speak for 4 days on our trip. So this was his amends trip.
Good. It's a lot better.
Yes. Like this was like making up for that one trip that one and only trip that we got. So yeah, it was very refreshing. We had conversations that we were like, wow, like look how far we've come and look how different this was than the last trip we took. So yeah. It's still
Love
fresh.
it.
So yeah, that one. Okay. That's mine.
Yay.
Gosh. I would actually have to say doing MDMA for the first time with my fiance.
Okay. I need a little more if you're open to it.
Totally. So MDMA, again, word to describe it, love. But when I told Tony, my fiance, that I was going to do a mushroom journey, he was like, what? No, you are not doing drugs. And then he saw me change like throughout the course of a year. And then he became more open to it. And our first MDMA trip together, you can have sexy time, you can talk, or you could do a little bit of both.
All of the above.
I thought we were going to have some sexy time. It ended up being me talking for 6 hours about my childhood trauma. And I know people were like, why would that be your favorite?
That was your
so
favorite?
beautiful. But it was just the fact that we communicated for 6 hours. And again, I struggle with getting into my feminine and being soft. And so the fact that I felt safe, I felt like I could just open up and keep talking. And I would say, like, during, I'm like, am I talking too much? I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. I feel like I'm just talking about me. And he was like, no, like, I feel like you're finally like opening up and being vulnerable. And I'm getting to like really know who you are and why you do the things that you do and all of the things that have really happened to you. And the closeness that I felt with him and just that we felt with each other. It has been a relationship saver. So I really cherish having that kind of an experience with my partner. So
oh my God, I feel like we could do a whole episode on this. I'm just hijacking your podcast. I feel like a whole episode could literally be on trips and like the importance of them, like in relationships and like with y'all's couples and going back and forth with like what you just mentioned with Cabo, because I do think that that's super important. But then also how you mentioned that. And the other thing with it is like, y'all both changed so much. Like I've been with my husband for 15 years, but we were high school. Like we were like, I'm not the same person. He's not the same person. I'm so grateful for our experience. It's very, very wild. But, you know, to have someone who can hold space for you and you changing and them not holding that against you. Like we're all meant to change and grow. And so they see that growth and they want to continue to grow with you. I think we could do a whole episode on that. But okay.
Well, and when you had a baby,
yes,
you let us know.
Let us know.
And yeah, when you need like a date night, hit us up and we can help you. You know, so
y'all know I'm gonna be Speed dial in, yeah, real quick.
Absolutely.
Texas group chat.
Yes, love it. Oh my God. All right, next one. What is your recent Netflix binge? Like it could be a movie. It doesn't have to be Netflix, but that's just the, Netflix and chill vibe.
So, okay, shit. I started watching Painkillers. Painkiller.
Wait, okay. Love it. I haven't watched
Okay.
it yet.
I watched Dope Sick on Hulu.
Watched it.
Super fucking serious, but I'm into that shit, like so hardcore. Like dope shit is like, it's like about the pharmaceutical company. It's about the opioid crisis.
It's a
like
deep
it's
dive,
a
y'all.
true story. It's like wild when you hear like the shit that's happening and that like is just happening still. And then Painkiller is like the dramatized, more entertaining version of that.
That same concept of it.
It's literally the same exact story. Like I showed my husband like the preview and he's like, why would we watch that? We already know the story. And I was like, this is more fun. It's the same story.
Isn't this fun?
But it's more entertaining. And so I understand why they did it because Dope Sick is so serious. Like nobody's watching that shit for entertainment. Like you're going in there to watch it to see how fucked up Big Pharma is. But Painkillers, you're watching it because it's like entertaining and also true.
Good bridge for people.
Yeah,
I think.
it's a great bridge. So I highly recommend. I've only watched the first episode, but it's already
10 out of 10. Awesome.
Yeah,
Painkillers.
totally.
It will be a binge. Got it.
It will be. It's gonna happen tonight, right after we get off.
Love it. Can't wait. Keep the fun rolling. Let's go.
Okay, for me, I'm watching Blue Zones. I think that's what it's called on Netflix.
Okay. Recently heard on this. Quickly tell people that don't know, what is a blue zone?
Okay, so it is like places where people live the longest. And
are healthier.
And yes, the healthiest, live long, like longest longevity. And so the only one I've watched so far is Okinawa, which I am already obsessed with the series. And it just makes me want to, 1, move out of the country, 2, start gardening, 3, continue using psychedelics and like healing trauma and like getting closer to myself. But I'm like obsessed with it. But the other thing, I'm going to be totally honest and transparent. Real Housewives in Salt Lake City.
I was waiting for some of that.
Because listen, like I'm here to have a human experience, and that human experience, I love reality TV, and I love them. I don't have messiness like that in my life, and I am
the drama.
I'm enthralled by these women, and I'm like, some are Mormon, some are excommunicated.
Love it.
This one's a pastor, and she married her step granddaddy, and I'm like, what the is going on? But
you already hooked me.
It's so good. One was following me on Instagram, Jen Shaw, but she's currently in prison for fraud. So that friendship has ended.
You could be your pen pal. You could write her a letter. I'm just saying.
Maybe.
Don't
Totally
cut that tie yet. Don't cut that tie yet. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'll check back in. I'll check.
Tell her you're a big fan. I don't agree with what you did, but
her and I used to DM. Because she's Pacific Islander too. And like, so season 1, she was like, listen, girl, this is everything that's going on in the reunion. Heather's crazy, blah, blah. But she's kind of the crazy one. So
I mean, she's still in TD in the DMs. You know, she's a little cray-cray.
Yeah, she'll look great. So.
Oh my God, I love it. All right. So I like the balance of having those 2 different shows. I'm also like that. So Leah, I would watch Dope Sick and then have to immediately watch something that was like either reality TV, something I've seen a million times. Yes, like The Office. It was like, that is how I have to like, I don't know. It's like having dessert at the end of dinner. I like have to do that. And that's like, it doesn't feel right if I don't.
I feel like I need a palate cleanser.
Thank you.
When I watch something dark.
Absolutely.
I don't want to have nightmares. I don't want to like be in my head.
My dreams
so,
since being pregnant are so vivid that I like have to be like, I'm crazy.
Yeah, you need a palate cleanser.
You get it.
I get that.
Okay, weird question. This is a quick one, so it'll actually be rapid. Are you an autumn or a Halloween girl? They're 2 different people. Are you a fall girl? Halloween girl? How about you? I was gonna say you're both Halloween girls. Okay, cool. I lean towards that.
I'm not the pumpkin spice girl. I fucking
You're
love
not wearing the
costume,
tall boots and the. Yes. Have you been to Spirit Halloween yet? Are we there already? I'm on Amazon. I have a lot in my cart because I'm trying to think.
Leah, we should enjoy Halloween costume this year.
You should.
We absolutely need to. Already have it. It's in my closet right now.
I got like all the I'm gonna be like perfectly like in 3rd trimester. Like it's gonna be like a real bump. So I'm like thinking of all the ideas, and I'm like, I might have to have 3 different costumes. I'll share. I can't share yet. After
You're a Halloween girl too.
Oh yeah.
I love any excuse to like have a theme or dress up. Like it is my favorite. It used to like piss me off because my husband used to like not dress us up as a family. He'd be like, you guys dress up. I'm not dressing up. And then I'm like, I'm not dressing up if you're not dressing up. And so that was one of the things that happened like during our last 3 years of healing is I want to dress up as a family. I know you don't want to, but can you please just make me happy? Please.
So simple. It's so simple.
It's so easy.
That's marriage advice 101 right there. Just say yes to it.
Happy wife, happy life.
Exactly. Oh, okay. I want to know, what was your AIM screen name?
Angel Baby _555.
So you were already into the angel numbers before it was like as big as it is now, if you think about it. 555.
I never even thought of that, but I did that because my middle name is Angelina. And so I used to always want to go by Angel, and 5 is my favorite number. I did not even think of that. I already have like 2 angel numbers tattooed on me. So holy
might need to get up.
Holy
that is so fitting. Yeah.
Wait, Christine, what was yours?
So my last name is Alfred, and I'm pretty sure it was Freddie _ 2006, but it was like uppercase, lowercase, uppercase, lowercase, with like,
cool way.
Like an exclamation on the front and the back, and like, yeah, nothing crazy. Yeah.
So cool.
Nothing crazy.
Just the usual.
Love that.
I love it.
Just the usual.
Oh my gosh.
I saw this. I thought, all right, let's do this podcast. And it was talking about how back in the day, like no one had an email or an AIM, like that was just their name.
Never. My name. My Hotmail email. Never. No.
Right. Or now when you do that, like people are like, well, just have your email be your name. Like, why are you Ivan Chica? Or like, what? And like, what?
Could you imagine if somebody asked me my email address and I was like, angelbaby _555 @gmail?
All business inquiries.
Not even like Yahoo or Hotmail @gmail. I'm going to tell people that.
You should.
I don't check it anyway. I don't check my email anyway.
Oh no, you don't. You don't. I check her email. I check our email.
Yeah, she does. I'll do it.
It's okay. There's just got to be one. You're good.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, this gets getting a little sappy. What is your favorite thing about your co-host? So Leah, what's your favorite thing about Christine?
Okay, I love this. My favorite things about her are the things that she probably hates about herself. We have talked about this we've gotten so fucking sappy about this because she struggled. Well, we both do, but like sometimes where she feels like she's falling short, I'm like, you do this and this and this, and I'm not good at any of those. Like what you just said, you're really good at like talking with people. You get our guests on the show. Like you're so fucking funny. I said that today. I was like, your TikToks are funny and mine are like super emotional and deep. And I wanted your feedback because I thought I made it funny. And I was like, do you think this is funny? So like the areas where I feel like I struggle, she thrives and she doesn't see them as strengths the way that I do. Like her ADHD, like I'm like, I fucking love it. Like I think you are really good at things that I am not going to ever be good at because my brain doesn't work the way that yours does. So they're not weaknesses. They are strengths. It's a big one. I'm sorry.
I'm like in the middle of y'all's faces, and this is like making me. I'm feeling the love going through.
A love sandwich.
Love sandwich. All right, Christine. What do you love about Leah, your co-host?
So, Leah is somebody who has always struggled to speak her voice, and one of the biggest things that I love about her that I don't think she gives herself enough credit for is she is truly a trailblazer. She is the one who, started with the mushrooms and the heroic journey and healed herself and then healed her family and then told me about it. And then I did it. And then we decided to start this podcast together. But I've genuinely just on this journey really, really just admired her and looked up to her. And I have always been somebody who has been like, okay, you're so worried about speaking up and sharing your truth, but you've got somebody right here who anything you say is like all ears and looks up to you and wants to be mentored by you. And even though it is her insecurity, it is her biggest gift. And I hope she doesn't ever stop sharing and speaking. And because there are people like me who will listen and who want to listen. And she's the one who started this. And I will forever be grateful, because I feel like if we hadn't met that day and I hadn't won that bracelet and she hadn't told me about mushrooms, I don't know where I would be right. I don't know how my mental health would be. I don't know how I would show up as a mom. I don't know how I'd be as a partner. I probably wouldn't be in a very good place. So
I
I
love
love
you.
you. Let me chill.
It's so much love in you right now. I love it.
I love
I'm
that
all about it.
question.
Thanks,
I
Kat.
love the questions.
So the last question I want to ask you guys. So podcast is called Confidently Uncomfortable, breaking out of your comfort zone in order to step into your confidence. So I want you to share something. Maybe you haven't said it out loud. Maybe you haven't shared it with the world that you're working towards that's a little uncomfortable for you, but maybe you're excited or it's just outside of your comfort zone or whatever it is that you're stepping into. It can be like together with y'all's podcast. It can be an individual thing, like no limits, whatever you feel comfortable or just feel led to share.
So the most recent thing that I feel like I was really held back for quite a while, and one of the reasons I did a ketamine journey is because I was kind of really feeling stuck. And this sounds wild because of what you just said, Christine, but like, you know, we've been wanting to start taking calls and helping people and coaching people, and I'm just over here like, me? Who wants to talk to us? Like, who wants to, what do I know about this stuff? Like, people aren't going to pay to talk to us. Like, who am I to charge people for that? And it was a block that I had because I really didn't feel confident enough in myself that people would actually care about what I had to say. And I had everyone around me, everyone saying, people want to know what you know. And I'm like, but you can like Google it and find it yourself. And they're like, no, they don't want to do that. They want to know what you know. They want to hear it from you. And so I did this ketamine journey. When was it? Like a month ago, Christine?
Yeah.
And it really like helped me push through that barrier of no, like that is kind of what I'm good at. Like, why am I beating myself up over this or like feeling like I'm an imposter in this? Like, I know what I know. I'm very confident in what I know. I teach these things to people all the time. So, and I am also like okay with owning my mistakes. If I'm wrong about something, I'll say I'm wrong. If I don't know something, I'll do the research to figure it out myself. So yeah, that's something that we just started taking calls. And I don't know what to really call it because we've had this conversation before. Like what we do is not really a job. It's not a career path. It's not a thing that you go to school for. Like it's the Wild West out here in the psychedelic world. But then we interview people who are psychedelic integration coaches and we talk to them and they're like, yeah, my first journey was 2021. And I'm like, wait, what? Like you haven't been doing this for a decade? You know, it really just made me feel like, no, I do have a place here. I have earned my spot and I know what I'm talking about and this is where I belong. So that's my breakthrough right there. Like I'm
a reminder,
way more fucking confident. I was very uncomfortable with that position and now I'm confident in this position.
You went for it anyways.
Yes.
Go girl. That's awesome.
Yeah. I need a little shove, but I got there.
Okay, you got there.
Yeah.
And for me, like I said before, I did not grow up with a father. I grew up with a single mom who hustled and worked hard and struggled. And I didn't realize it until my healing journey, but I was somebody who was very aggressive, very can't fuck with me, or you talk shit, I'll talk shit right back. Like very much so, always in fight mode and always like on the defense. And this healing journey really worked on my softness. And people saw me as hard, but what they didn't see is, yes, I was hard on the outside, but I was super, and I still am super hard on myself and super rigid. towards myself. But yeah, becoming softer and becoming more vulnerable and working on really like letting my guard down and really realizing that I'm safe. And Leah has honestly helped with that because she's somebody who puts very in her feminine, and she is very vulnerable, and she is very soft, and she's very nurturing. And that has been a huge thing, is just kind of letting my guard down and being more vulnerable and being more open and getting more into my feminine. So
you helped me get into my masculine more.
yeah.
So I was gonna say, I feel
Feral
like
cat energy.
but that's so good. I was gonna say black cat energy.
Yes.
Yeah, like that. I
literally.
see that. But it's like you guys, it's so cool how like God, the universe brought y'all together in the timing that you did, because you truly do balance each other in such a beautiful way and bring out the best in each other. And like that's what people are searching for in, connection. And so I'm so grateful that you guys not only stop with like you created that connection with each other and now you're sharing it with others. And it's just, it's so beautiful. So I'm so glad you guys decided to start the podcast. So thank you guys for being so open and real and just honest on this podcast. I'm glad you could be here tonight. And I'm glad you guys could listen and hear from Christine and Leah. Make sure you guys go listen to them on See You on the Other Side podcast. It's such a good podcast. It's not just psychedelics, but it's a great, good step in there if you have no idea where to start. I absolutely love the episode so far. So make sure you guys go listen. And then we'll put some other resources they were talking about earlier in the show notes. Follow them on social media. And also, thank you for being here today. I will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks, guys.